Hello, and welcome back to This Week at TEG, brought to you by me, Steve Bowden, and the Archmage, Ed Greenwood.
Hi! TEG, that's the Ed Greenwood Group, folks, is undergoing some massive changes right now.
Those changes are going to lead to some pretty exciting things in the long run, but in the short term, they're going to significantly reduce how many things we're going to have on offer in our store.
Due to next year's repackaging and relaunch of Stormtalons and Helmaw, all novels, novellas, and short stories will be removed from sale in all formats and across all venues on December 31st, 2018.
We're doing this to really concentrate on giving you, our patrons, the best experience and content possible in the relaunches by focusing our efforts on what the Ed Greenwood Group is meant to be. A company centered on its creatives. By taking time to focus and center our creatives, they will have more fun and can better create truly innovative and imaginative works for you, the patron, to enjoy.
And not just enjoy. The Ed Greenwood Group's end goal is to be a truly transmedia publishing company, providing, in one place, everything a patron could want, be that patron casual or truly devoted. That goes beyond posters, coffee mugs, and t-shirts, though we'll have those too.
That means content you can fully immerse yourself in outside of the published works. Whenever you go to a TEG channel, you'll be able to meet and interact with the characters, learn about and explore locations, buy the Mystic staff or the awesome trench coat, and have discussions with each other and the creatives who are bringing all of this glorious material to you. And then, by extension, learn about the creatives themselves and the amazing works they do outside the Ed Greenwood Group.
This is what I envisaged from the start for the company that bears my name. A win-win-win for me as the publisher, me as the author, and me as the patron. Because the works we've produced to date have left me wanting all the goodies. And since I am all three, publisher, author, and patron, I feel I have a pretty good handle on what to offer and how to offer it, based on my own voracious appetites for fiction and all the things that stem from it.
What we'll have next year is a celebration of Ed Greenwood and his more than 50 years of creating fiction. Short stories that have never before seen the light of day, plus articles on a wide variety of subjects, gaming information, readings, group projects open to the public, contest galore. We have a lot planned.
As we proceed through 2018, Clinton Cronk's Forgotten Realms Adventures and my Forgotten Realms Adventures will be available at the DM's Guild. Then Stormtalons and Helmaw will both relaunch, with solid content and plans beyond them, so we can really give fans what they want.
Culminating in one hell of a showing at Gamehole Con in November 2018.
That's right. Even though Gamehole Con is a long way off, we are already cementing plans for receptions, panels, games, and perhaps even a vendor's table with lots of interesting artifacts for your purchasing pleasure.
And we will continue to develop our online presence, so whether you have 5 minutes or 6 hours to while away online, you'll find plenty at the online home of TEG.
So be patient with us, if you would be so kind. This weekly broadcast will continue, and so will our giveaways, readings, and interviews.
It will all be worth it.
The YouTube channel will also be expanding with playlists dedicated to readings, book trailers, interviews, and more.
Every fiction reading you've seen in these videos will be made available there.
I've also informed our tech heads I'd like the Questions for the Archmage to have their own channel. Apparently, that means going through videos, cutting clips out of them, and so on. But they assure me that this can be done.
Speaking of questions for the Archmage, you're going on holiday, aren't you?
Well, not really. What I am doing is taking a bit of time away from tag and writing to focus on family, the holidays, and many other things that require my attention. As such, any questions that come in for me, or participation and appearance requests, will not be answered until January 15th. By all means, go ahead and send them in, but the office of Ed Greenwood will be closed until then. I will, however, get to them as soon as I'm able. But enough long-winded business talk. On to that content we were just speaking of.
This time we have the 5th reading from All Things Through the Bright Flames, Ed Greenwood's first tale of mirth, set in Emporium.
From my Mert tale, All Things Through the Bright Flames. The horses stumbled a bit, but kept going when they trampled the 2 fallen bodyguards. But the coach they were pulling struck the bodies and bounced, with a terrific crash that flung one drover bodily off his perch to slam down atop the 3rd bodyguard, who'd only just managed to stagger aside, and smash him heavily to the ground in a meaty, bouncing thudding that knocked down and pinned a vainly flailing Amun Uldru under them both. The coach bounced again and rattled, swaying alarmingly, and for a moment Mert feared it was going to go over on its side and begin the process of being dragged along and torn apart. But then it somehow stayed upright, so instead of getting flattened by it, he had a chance to leap and... Rah! He pulled something. Farouk, this getting old, was quite a literal pain in the behind just now, but he was aboard the coach and hauling himself hand over hand up the rail to the drover's perch, where the astonished surviving drover greeted him with a whip across the face. Luckily for Mert, drovers' whips are long, heavy things intended for reaching the front of a long team of beasts in harness, not maltreating men's faces right beside the drover's perch. So the best the drover could manage was a single, clumsy lashing attempt that resulted in the end of his whip getting caught in the racing hooves ahead, battered to the ground, drawn in under the wheels, caught, and the man's whip arm was wrenched from its socket. He shrieked in pain and foolishly failed to let go, and was snatched down and under the coach in a terrified instant, leaving Mert with an empty perch to clamber up onto. Thankfully, this was a modern coach, with the long reins coming in through metal hoops affixed to the front of the drover's footboard, and knotted at their ends around metal grips fashioned far too large to fit through those hoops, so they couldn't be lost, and control of the coach with it. Mert wheezed his way up onto the perch, thrust his arms through the shoulder straps that veteran drovers disdained to use because he knew how easy it was to get flung off, and hauled on the reins, just in time to make the racing horses veer off the road and neatly run over the loping half-lion Garlacher, trampling him flat. Crash, bounce, crash, rattle. Mert unclenched his rattling teeth and used the hand grab to lean out perilously and look back. The trampled doppelganger was rolling over and over, limbs moving rather than just flopping, so Mert snarled a curse, untangled himself from the straps, and launched himself into the air, hurling himself well out to one side of the coach that was just going to have to take its passengers into Ormpur at full tilt by itself now, and tucking himself into a ball, head first, and down between his legs. This was going to hurt. Ooh, it did. Aha! Grr, fucking ballooning sark. And then, at just about the time, Mert ran out of breath to go on cussing, he rocked to a stop so he could pant in enough air to start groaning, and gingerly unrolling himself as the coach rattled and crashed on into the distance. It would be far too much to expect of the gods that would helpfully run over Restag too, but hoping that it did would cost nothing. So he did, to see if anything was broken. Anything major, that is. Wincing, groaning, and limping, Mert made his slow and painful way. Oh, he was going to be stiff on the morrow, always assuming he lived that long, back to the sprawled figure of Garlacher, who was shuddering in pain and slowly shifting shape into yet another human form. Very slowly, so he must be hurt. He glared up at Mert in open hatred, hissing. So Mert drove his short sword into the doppelganger's mouth and pinned him to the ground with it. Then he got out his biggest dagger and cut the ganger's throat, and kept right on sawing as Garlacher squalled and spasmed and started thrusting his arm out into long tentacles to try to strangle Mert or entwine his wrists or wrench the dagger away from him. A tentacle slapped Mert across the face and tried to stay there and cut off his breath, so he bit into it, slid off the bracer that prevented shape-shifting, and jammed it into the ganger's wedged open with his sword mouth. Then he stopped cutting away at the neck. The head was half off. But for the bracer to work, he needed it to stay in contact with the body for a bit longer now, and started the grisly work of cutting open the doppelganger's human-seeming belly. When he had a hole large enough, he tore the bracer out of the mouth, jammed it into the ganger's gaping belly to keep it seeming human. How long did an interrupted shift go on happening after a doppelganger died? Well, no matter, 'twasn't an experiment he was interested in making just now, and returned to getting the head off. When that dubious but necessary trophy rolled free of its neck, he trudged off in search of the drover and that third bodyguard and Uldru. Between the three of them, they ought to have enough clothes to wipe all the blood off his hands, or furnish him with fresh clothes so he could shuck these now gory ones. They did. The bodyguard was dead, thanks to Mert's poisoned needle, and the drover was also deceased, thanks to his chest landing squarely on the vicious dagger the bodyguard was still clutching in his non-blowpipe hand. The blowpipe was shattered, and Uldru was groaning and helpless under all the dead weight pinning him to the ground, which left Mert with a decided advantage in negotiations. In fact, Uldru began by pleading for his life. "Not my whiskers! Please, not my whiskers!" "I don't see that you're in much of a position to argue myself," Mert growled, and brought his knife down. Uldru shrieked. Blood spurted. Mert sighed in exasperation. "If you hadn't tried to twist away, you idiot, you'd still have most of your upper lip. However, I now have an intact mustache still rooted in your flesh. That's going to be handy." For what?" Uldru snarled around the blood. "Proving the corpse I'm going to show them is you. Here, press this hard against your mouth to stop the bleeding till I can get a fire going to sear your wound." Where are you going?" "I have a head back there to hack into unrecognizability so I can put your distinctive mustache with it and call it yours." Uldru moaned, seeming not to appreciate this cleverness in the slightest. Mert shook his head, wiped his knife clean on the knee of Uldru's breeches so as not to leave a trail of blood for dark-wind eyeballs to find later, and headed back for what was left of Garlacher. Merchants these days. Last week, we offered you an exclusive look at my latest Forgotten Realms 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons role-playing adventure, The Haunted Tomes of Durlusk. But this week, we're going to rewind things a bit.
Instead of going forward, we're going a bit back. For the last several weeks, we've been presenting excerpts from All Things Through the Bright Flames, as we did just now.
And now, we're giving you the opportunity to get it for free.
Just go to Onder Emporium and buy any item, even a short story, and you can download the first Mert tale there.
No coupon code or anything else needed. The option to get All Things Through the Bright Flames will automatically show up when you go to your cart.
Just click the link to Onder Emporium in the description below.
And thank you once again for joining us. It is truly appreciated.
And if you haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe.
And why not click the notifications bell to make sure you're told the moment we upload something new. Bye for now.
Goodbye.